Why subscription marketing is taking center stage is today's topic. We've got a great panel here today assembled for you. My name is Ray Schneeberger, Casino Marketing Group, and I'm happy to moderate today's panel. I know that Maurice had introduced Jim, Heather, Nilton, and Micah to the event, and I'd like to start with a quick definition, talking about subscription marketing today. So I took a minute and looked up the definition according to Wikipedia. Let me read this to you real quick. The subscription business model is a business model where a customer pays a subscription price to have access to the product and service. The model was pioneered by magazines and newspapers, but is now used by many businesses. And I think that's kind of the core of what we're talking about today. And I would add that the subscription model today is on fire. And why is that? I'm going to take you back real quick to 1994, July 5 of 1994, when an unknown company was founded at that point called Amazon. And if you think about that, that's a fairly long time ago. But what Amazon taught all of us as consumers and businesses is it's okay to go online and buy a product with a credit card. And if you think back to the mid-90s, that was probably something that most people didn't want to adapt to. But as we move forward in time and come to today, it's everywhere. And what Amazon did, and not just Amazon, but other companies as well along the way, changed consumer purchase behavior. I'll give you a couple of examples of some subscription businesses too to sort of set the stage for the panel here. Different types of models for subscription are called replenishment, think coffee, razor blades, etc. Surprises in a box, that aha moment that the consumer wants to get a box that they don't know what's inside, but they're going to discover when they open it up. Over-the-top streaming services, very popular today, is disrupting the cable industry. So think about that you can subscribe maybe to a service that like AMC that will allow you to subscribe to a particular genre for $4.99 a month, charged to the convenience of your credit card, or Netflix, etc. And then quickly, let me tell you about Zevora, which is a company that did a paper recently, at the end of last year, give you a sense of the size of this business. The subscription business sales have grown substantially and faster than two key public benchmarks: the S&P 500 sales and U.S. retail sales. The subscription economy index has grown 9 times faster than the Standard & Poor's 500 sales over the past 5 years, 15% versus 1.7%. And 4 times faster than U.S. retail sales, 15% versus 3.6%. And the constituents that make up this study increased tenfold since 2012, and the combined annual revenue between those constituents stands at over $9 billion with a B dollars, a figure that has increased by 20 times over the past 5 years. So, setting a stage here to give you a little insight as to what subscription is all about. It takes many forms and shapes today. The panel here, who was introduced earlier, I'm going to allow them each to tell you a little bit about who they are, their business model, and we'll kick it off with Heather. Heather, could you introduce yourself, please, and explain a little bit about your business model?
So I'm Heather Shuffalo. I've been in the DTC publishing side of the business for almost 20 years. I began in direct-to-consumer marketing with guideposts on the magazine side, doing forecasting, modeling, scheduling. Eventually migrated over to business analytics on the book side, where I did all of the metrics for the book business, modeling, forecasting. And eventually, now almost 10 years ago, took over marketing for the continuity book business. So that's really where this came into play, because I came from the continuity business and was recently hired by TMBI, previously Reader's Digest, to take on initially the relaunch of the Select Edition continuity business, which had been dormant for fiscal 14 and 15. They had no acquisition, and they were trying to relaunch it. In addition to that, they wanted some new product development, so I took that on as well. I've also taken on the e-commerce side of the business, and about 2 months ago, I took on our box business, which is the Taste of Home box business. It's a quarterly subscription program. We offer both single sales and subscription. It's about $35 a box. It is the aha moment that Ray mentioned, where our subscribers do not know what's in the box. They want it to be a present. They want it to open it and have that experience like they're getting a gift every quarter. It is promoted as cultivated by the editors from Taste of Home. It is filled with gadgets. Some books from Taste of Home where we try not to put too much of our product in. And then other things where we're trying to leverage partnerships with existing people that work in either our advertising area or work with the editors or work with our Taste of Home Taste Kitchen, which is a big part of the Taste of Home brand. So I'm kind of new to the business, so I'm looking forward to learning some things from the people up here today. And we are looking to move forward with the Taste of Home box this summer with a relaunch, because we've only got it out for a year. We've only filled about 5 boxes so far, but we're growing pretty well. We just did 4,000 boxes for our winter box. 4,500 boxes is what we're forecasting for our spring box. And in our 3-year plan, we're looking at a 20% increase in the next year over year. And in the summer, we hope to go out to different channels because we really ultimately got mostly digital, which is where the subscription business kind of came about, especially with AutoCC. But we're really not tapping all of the customers that we could really be reaching out to. We're probably only hitting about 20% of our Taste of Home customers today.
Thank you. Micah, can you tell us about that?
Hi. Excuse me. I'm Micah Kirshner. I'm with Vantive. I handle enterprise sales in the e-commerce space, primarily focused.
Can you move the microphone a little closer?
Is it on?
See, maybe
This is help.
Is it on?
Hit the button. All right. How's this? Okay. Again, Micah Kirshner. I handle enterprise e-commerce sales for Vantive. I'm primarily focused on subscription merchants throughout the U.S. and actually globally. Vantive, we are the second largest payments acquirer in the world. What that means is we're the people that make credit cards work for merchants. Right? We're the ones that go out and collect payments from consumers' credit cards and get our customers paid. Our customers include Netflix, Hulu, Casino Marketing Group, Target, USPS, and Kroger, just to name a few. I specifically, again, work on the e-commerce side of the house. We have a platform that is solely for e-commerce and card not present. One of only 2 in the world that have that specific design. Actually, as a historical note, some of you may be familiar with Tim Lytle, who built the platform. And Vantive acquired Lytle & Company just over 5 years ago. And that's, again, that's the platform that I sell. And it being specific for card not present has specific advantages. And we're able to move a lot more data through our pipes because it's not a multi-use platform. It's a very single-use platform. And we're able to get higher performance as a result. And so our merchants see higher authorization approval rates, which is to say that the cards are accepted more than not. And we also have very fast transaction processing speeds. So again, happy to chat with you guys offline afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Milton, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Milton Duque. I'm the head of marketing and acquisition at PinchMe. There are some boxes on each one of your tables. I think it's a good time. You can pass the box around the table so you can take a look at our offering. But essentially, PinchMe is an online community. It's a sampling club. It is a social media network, if you may. We go by a lot of names to a lot of different people, but in brief, basically, PinchMe is a place where you sign up to complete a profile. You let us know more about your lifestyle, who you are, your family demographics, and then we target you with relevant samples that match your lifestyle. And so every month we ship out over 250,000 boxes across the country, and we work with some of the major CPG brands such as Procter & Gamble, Unilever, Nestle, Kraft, and all the majors to obviously source and distribute those samples on their behalf. Today we are one of the largest, if not the largest, digital sampling community in the marketplace. We have 2.6 million registered members across the U.S. And we have over 1.2 million social media followers across all the major networks. I head up acquisition and marketing in general, which means a lot of different things, a lot of different people, but in general, I oversee the acquisition of new members and signups to grow our audience, and then what happens once they're signed up. What kind of experience do they go through once they've signed up? And that's pretty much it. We've been in business for over 3 years. We were originally founded in Australia. We sold the business there and then moved to the US 3 years ago. The market here is much larger, of course, much larger opportunity. I've been at Pinch Me for roughly 15 months now, so I'm pretty new to the business. Before that, I spent almost 10 years in purely e-commerce marketing in a range of different businesses. I was head of marketing in North America for a company called Ukes, which has recently merged with Net-a-Porter as one of the largest fashion e-commerce conglomerates in the world. So I was overseeing the Diesel, the Armani, and the Dolce & Gabbana businesses in the US. I also managed an agency throughout my 2 to 2.5 year period where I was overseeing marketing for Happy Socks, which is a sock brand, where I launched a subscription model for them as well. So pretty much almost 10 years of e-commerce, acquisition, digital marketing experience, and looking forward to speaking with all of you later on, answering any questions, and speaking to both of you about subscription.
Thank you. Then, Tim?
10 years, huh? Well, I'd love to say 10 years, but I've been in the direct-to-consumer space for 30 years now. And I have been a continuity subscription marketer that entire time, and continuity is groovy and subscription is yuck. So that's what we are today. So subscription marketing is hot. I'm the founder of Casino Marketing Group of about 15 years ago. I am also the founder of Amora Coffee of about 5 or 6 years ago. And our focus at our agency, Casino Marketing Group, is to help our clients find their way into a value proposition so they could target consumers to buy a product and bring it home on a replenishment type of basis. And the entire subscription model is around what works for you, when it works for you, and the service that you control. So we service about 20 different clients, about 60 different subscription businesses at Casino Marketing Group. And about 5 or 6 years ago, we said, well, if we could do this for everybody else, we could probably do it for ourselves. So we founded Amora Coffee, and we developed a business model that I'll get into in a little while. But we developed a business model that in the last 5 years has brought in over 500,000 consumers that we are servicing from a monthly, quarterly basis on a subscription basis.
Thank you. I'd like to point out as the moderator here that this is a conversation. So as questions come up in your mind and you want to shout them out, please feel free to do so. We did schedule some time towards the end for Q&A if that is appropriate. But this is conversational, so let's have some fun. Let's all learn from this. And I'll ask a couple questions to the group here and take us into the learning curve a little bit. So I had mentioned earlier about consumer purchase behavior and how it's changed. And I would say that cutting-edge marketers today recognize this and are acutely aware of it. So understanding a little bit about how the marketers on the group are generating new customers, I'd like to get a little bit of thought from each of you on that. So Heather, you want to kick it off?
As you had alluded to before with Amazon, we actually went out with the box into the digital marketplace. That's what the current model was in subscription. That seemed to be what was working. And it's cost-effective as opposed to direct mail, works with auto credit card. What we're learning is we're tapping out our own audience because we're not doing acquisition outside of our own house models. So we're looking for new channels. We've done some inserts in statements and things of that nature. We've also done some social media, which actually has some life to it. So that's an interesting angle that we'd like to pursue. But really, we're looking to go back to our direct marketer roots and see if we can do something with direct mail. Because for our own house customers, that's what they're used to. That's what they're used to seeing for us. We're only tapping 20% of our Taste of Home customers. Of that 20%, 60-something% are our current subscribers. So we've got a huge base out there that we're not hitting just being digital. So we need to move away from kind of what the standard marketing channel was as far as digital goes, and kind of bridge it with what the traditional direct mail is. And that's kind of the path that we're going on right now to generate new customers.
Thank you. I'm going to mix up the rotation and keep everybody fresh here. So Jim, I'll ask you the same question. With the change in consumer purchase behavior that you've seen over the years, how are you generating new customers today?
So what we do is we try to focus on putting our offer and value propositions in front of the buying eyes at the right time. So, if you step back 10, 15, 20 years ago, your purchase behavior of consumers were probably limited to something that might look this big. And today that has grown exponentially to probably over the size of this room. So just take the online digital channels for example. Probably about 15 years ago, we considered online a channel, and today in online, there is probably 20 or 25 different channels, whether that's social, whether that's mobile, whether that's search, whether that's display, programmatic, whether that's email, or anything along those lines. So the question becomes, where are our buying eyes hanging out? So for example, there's a particular generation that will still buy from print, and so print's not dead, and you're going to continue to utilize print in many different ways. And print is also a very, very strong support medium. Okay, but there are other parts of our buying generations that won't utilize email to purchase. They'll only utilize email because their company requires, their school requires them to have an email account. And they'll only buy through social, or they'll only buy through mobile, or they'll only buy through an app. So the question becomes, in this ever-changing consumer purchase behavior, from millennials to baby boomers, and everybody in between, who's looking where, who's residing where, and how are you going to market to them? So you have to have a very different marketing strategy now for each different generation because they're using a different tool. So that's the focus of what we do at Facina Marketing Group, is to make sure that we have our value proposition for each one of our clients in front of the right buying eyes. So if we're selling Harlequin books, we're not doing it through an app. But if we're selling Disney books, we're probably using an app.
Thanks, Jim. Milton?
Yeah, so I think that it's important to understand that regardless of the acquisition channels that we use, we just need to understand where people are, quote unquote, hanging out, right? So for Pinch Me, we have a 85% female demographic, 60% of which have kids living at home. And obviously it's a 33 to 35-year-old female, the all-American customer. And so we have to find out where she's hanging out. So regardless of the channels that we use, we want to understand what types of publications is she reading, what online blogs is she reading, is she spending more time on Facebook versus Instagram, which for us is the case, right? Our member is spending far more time on Facebook than she is on Instagram. So obviously, as Jim mentioned, I think there's probably a toolbox of 25 to 100 or so different potential channels that we could use to potentially activate and acquire new members. For us, it's actually really interesting. We are a free platform, so there's no credit card required. Shipping is free on every box. So we have a completely different scope of acquisition than we would have, or I would have in a different business where I have a $100 LTV in a year from that consumer. So for us, it's more of a volume business. So we're actively growing the audience by over 100,000 new members per month, doing that in a very organic way. And so we do that through a series of different channels, one of which is the influencer community. So the boxes you see on your tables, we ship about 100 to 200 of those to some very influential people, whether they be YouTubers, whether they be influential Instagrammers, whether they be bloggers. And then they cover that box, they share that story with their audience, and then in turn, we obviously get traffic and signups. In addition, we have invested heavily in SEO, which is not going anywhere. It's a channel that's been, in general, has been pretty evergreen for forever. So we enjoy having evergreen traffic that comes from the search engines for people searching for free samples or the products that we have on the site. In addition, I think it's important to understand that you go back to the basics. Partnerships are really important, and you can generate a lot of traffic, a lot of new members and new customers by doing partnerships. It's a way that you don't necessarily need to spend a lot of money. You can find a business that makes sense for you, that can partner up with you, and then trade in some capacity. So we do a lot of that. And then last but not least, social. So obviously, since we have such a large social community, and we have such a large member base, we try to incentivize those people to then share with their friends and share with other people that they feel may be interested, and that creates a viral link. So with all those channels and more together, those are pretty much the ways we're acquiring customers today.
Thank you. So Michael, you're on the panel here from a little bit different perspective as it relates to Vantive and the services you described earlier. But perhaps from where you sit, you have a little bit different vantage point that might provide some insights to the audience and the panelists as well. So how do you see the customers you deal with, and you talk about some pretty big brands here, how are they looking at generating new customers from your kind of at a very high level? How are you seeing that changing today?
Well, I guess, our role really is a supportive role, right? We follow our customers and make sure that they're able to get paid wherever they are, and look at what changed their time. Sending in a little card with your credit card information on it to buy a magazine and be able to capture that data from a lockbox. To the rise of the internet, being able to enter your credit card information online, and now to mobile and to the digital wallets. And it's all about making that transaction easier and simpler, both from the cardholder, the customer perspective, as well as for the merchant to be able to accept that payment. In terms of big growth areas right now that we're finding is international, right? International, particularly in the e-commerce space, and even more so in the digital space. There just are the borders fall away, and so we are able to help merchants be able to sell in foreign currencies, to settle to their U.S. bank accounts, to U.S. dollars, or follow them around the world as they actually have local domicility and are growing strongly in local markets. So again, I guess it's more a supportive role to enable our merchants to do their business wherever it may be.
So that's a good segue into our next kind of question out here for the panel, and that is technology has advanced so much over the past decade, let alone in the past day, the way things change so quickly here that we've seen. So staying with you, Michael, for a minute, tech advancement, paying with a credit card, and some of the things you already touched on, and convenience to the consumer. I'd like to hear your point of view as how tech advances and how that's going forward as we move out into this new year and next year. What are your thoughts on tech advancement as being in the forefront today and helping subscription markets?
In terms of where we are going forward, from the merchant side, again, our role is to enable the business model. What we're finding, there's been some changes recently in payments, and everybody has a chip in their card now, in their credit card. That chip has closed a loophole in fraud from a card cloning perspective, and so you cannot. It authenticates the card. It means when you go into Target and you run a transaction, it's certain that that card is the card that was issued by the bank. And that, again, by closing that loophole in card present fraud, it means the focus is now on card not present fraud. And so technology moving forward means that you need to have a stronger presence and a stronger solution for controlling fraud in the card not present or e-commerce subscription continuity perspective. And so again, the fraud screening technology that is being used needs to stay ahead of the curve at all times. I guess most important for merchants in the continuity space, it's about maximizing the customer lifetime value and limiting customer churn due to payments breakage. And what that means is, for payments, it's getting that payment to go through every single time. In continuity, it's not about one payment, it's about that lifeline, right? It's about having the 10 payments that you expect to have in that customer lifetime value. And there are some cool things coming out of Visa and MasterCard this year, which is called network-based account updating, which should be game-changing. It means that at the time that you send a payment through to get authorization of payment, if a card has been reissued, your card expired, or your card has been reissued because there was fraud on it, they'll be able to have a real-time request to get updated account information back from the banks and allow that transaction to go through. Again, this is huge for continuity business and will enable continuity business to continue and continue to flourish by maximizing customer lifetime value of each partner.
Thank you. Jim, could you put a little bit of perspective from you're wearing two hats here today as a marketer as well as the agency side of the business. So how has tech advancement put subscription in the forefront today?
I know you're not supposed to answer a question with a question, but I'm going to ask a question. How many marketers do we have in the room? Please raise your hand. High, please, so I can see them. Okay. How many technology folks do we have in the room? Can we raise our hands? Okay. How many people would have believed that 20 years ago, marketing determined the direction of technology? Raise your hands. How many people today believe that technology directs the direction of marketing? That's my answer.
Well said. Thank you. So, technology and the unique model you have.
So I think it's interesting because at the core, obviously, we are a subscription business. But at the core, we are a technology business and a data business because we're capturing. The reason why brands work with us is because we're capturing all the data around the customer's experience. So a member will go to the site, see what they have available, they'll check out, they'll receive the product, and then they're asked a series of questions. So we capture all of that data. We also capture and encourage ratings and reviews, and we syndicate all those ratings and reviews of those products out to the marketplace. So Walmart, drugstore.com, Target, etc. So for us, it's really, I think the data that we have helps us do our job better, but it also helps us understand more about our members and helps us report that back to the brands that we're working with. So for instance, we've commissioned this big project in the last 9 months, which is creating a machine learning algorithm, which takes a look at all the hundreds of thousands and millions of reviews we drive every single month and understands sentiment around those reviews. That way we can report back to the brands a better outlook on the information that we're gathering, and also helps us tailor future subscription boxes or future mailings to members based on what type of experience they had. Are they a good customer? Do they write a review with 100 words or 2 words? So I think that technology is enabling us to do that. Without that technology, we would be, obviously sending product to people that we thought were a good fit, but technology is obviously topping that off for us. So that's, I guess, an example of how it's impacting our business on a day-to-day.
Great, thank you. And Heather,
I think there's a question.
oh, I'm sorry.
I have a question for Pitch Me. So the information that you get back, was that then determine what goes into the
Correct.
box?
So you are, the combination of products that you receive is completely customized and curated for your lifestyle.
Any other questions? Did I miss any? Okay. Heather, you mentioned for a long time that Reader's Digest and the traditional side of that, you're venturing into this subscription box business now. How do you see tech impacting that business as you move forward?
Well, one thing we've been thinking about and trying to take advantage of, again, the box business is based on the Taste of Home Enthusiast brand, and it's only 5 boxes in, so we're still feeling things out. But the social media aspect, our box being an aha moment box, a present box, anybody who does Birchbox or FabFitFun or any of those other non-reveal boxes You see people out on YouTube, you see people out on Facebook where they're opening the box, and that's part of the marketing of the box. So I think we really need to branch out into that positioning of technology where you're really banking on that surprise, that anticipation moment for the box. Also, just to go back to your point on Pinch Me, Milton, the whole research for us with the box, we've done research after every single box that we put in, and we learn so much from our customers after every box, and we're implementing that every single time. What they like, what they don't like, what they want more of, how they feel about the packaging, how they feel about the experience, and we're trying to implement that time and time again, so you're giving the customer the aha experience, but it's exactly what they wanted. It's kind of like, you know, that aunt that always gave you the best birthday present or the best Christmas present. You can't wait to get that present from her because you know she nailed it. So that's what we're trying to do between research and maybe branching out to social media and kind of getting the buzz on what it's like to experience the box when you get it.
And I just wanted to add to that, I think, to your point, I think it's really important to take a step back sometimes and understand that technology, yes, is extremely important, but sometimes all you need to do is ask. Right? All you need to do is ask your customers or your members questions, and you can learn a lot about what they have to say or what their thoughts are. So obviously the technology enables a lot of that, but oftentimes we can send out a survey to 100,000 core users and find out information that we wouldn't necessarily known before. We can build a machine that can learn that, or we could just activate the audience and ask them. So I think that also going back to the basics.
And building on that, as you develop a subscription model, it really has to be a service that you control so that the consumer really does feel like they're in control of their subscription. And a great model to follow is Poland Spring. Does anybody get Poland Spring to their home? You can determine how many bottles, when you want them. Do you want to skip a bottle? Do you want to skip a day? Do you want the front door? Do you want the back door? Do you want a little bottle, big bottle, or a whole case of tiny bottles? Okay, so it has to be the subscription that you control, okay, and that becomes a value proposition that is now a want from the consumer instead of, a jam, that might have been some of the old continuity practices.
So we're building a case here today that subscriptions everywhere. I talked about Netflix and some of those big brands where as long as you're happy as a consumer to watch Netflix and pay $10 a month, or whatever the fee is, you'll stay with that service. As you look around and being in that side of the business, I just see so many business startups over the past couple of years in particular. It's not just subscription box, but it's things like over-the-top video, and whereby these companies are disrupting traditional models. There may be a kind of a little built up, in my estimation, cable companies. You pay X dollars a month and maybe not happy with the service simply because you get a lot of things that you never watch. So the technology has allowed for companies now to put out a single subscription at $4.99 a month and subscribe to that service, whatever that might be. And we're only limited by what today's entrepreneur can't think of. Think of other companies like an Uber that, in essence, is testing. I saw some studies out there, or an article too, that they're testing a subscription. Rather than pay for a single Uber ride, you might pay some test markets a flat fee and ride Uber as many times as you want. So there are real dynamics in play here that are changing the world that we, as consumers and businesses, are in the middle of every day. Following up on that subscription is everywhere. We've got several marketers here that are looking at their own businesses, and now they're faced with competition because they're not the only model out there doing a particular service. So I'd like to ask the panel each, what makes your business stand ahead of the crowd, if you will? And I'll start with Bill.
I think basically for us it's mass sampling. So a lot of companies can get 50,000 units, 100,000 units, et cetera, into the hands of potentially targeted customers. We can do it on a more mass scale. So since we have 2.6 million registered members and growing, we can do that quickly, effectively, and to a large audience. I think for us, number two is all the data that we garner when we work with customers or when we send boxes out to customers. As I mentioned, we're capturing hundreds of millions of data points per month and then we can action on that data, so we understand, did they buy? We understand what they thought about the product. We understand they shared the product with a friend on social. So all that information makes us very special. And then also being able to personalize. A lot of older sampling businesses may have been a kind of blind shipping. You sign up and you just get things shipped to your house. For us, it's all opt-in, so you have to log into the site, build your box, and it'll be personalized to you. So I think, as I mentioned, mass sampling, understanding the data, and personalization, I think they're three things that really make us very unique in the marketplace.
I'd like to hear your thoughts, please, Heather, on what makes you stand above the competition from your point of view.
You know, there's a lot of uniqueness in all of the boxes. People sometimes confuse us with more of the meal preparation boxes, which we're not. We're relying on the Taste of Home brand, which the magazine and the books are all about recipes and recommendations. Taste of Home magazine does a best of in floral, which is extremely successful. So we're trying to leverage our box on the recommendations of the editors in the test kitchens, and that's where we want to see the strength grow in selling the box. That these are gadgets and ingredients or spices or recipes that are specifically picked for our customers, not wide mass, our customers who enjoy our brand, and leverage that to go out, and then we can see what the next steps are going to be. And truthfully, what we feel like the next steps are going to be, we're not there yet, but it's part of a 3-year plan. You know, Reader's Digest has a number of enthusiast brands, including Birds in Bloom, Reminisce. It's got, you know, Readers, which I'm not sure how we tie that one in. But there's a couple of different ways that we can go and expand under our company and really take boxes to a different level, much like the annual business or the continuity book business was.
Thank you. So Jim, I'm going to ask you to put your Amora Coffee CEO hat on and answer this question. What makes your business, the Amora Coffee business, stand ahead of the crowd? Who doesn't drink coffee? 90% of the country probably drinks coffee.
It's a competitive market. It's a very competitive market, but as you'll see, every product that ultimately comes to market will face some head-on competition if that product is successful. So as you're entering a competitive market, and if you're bringing a product to market that you believe is going to be competitive, it's got to have a very, very strong value proposition to the consumer. So at Amora Coffee, we had to determine what was going to be our value proposition in this highly, highly commoditized arena where over 80% of U.S. customers, U.S. population drinks coffee. How do you compete in that? How's a little guy compete in that? Well, it's got to come down to value proposition. So, sure, we have great beans, we have great blends, we have great origins, we have great packaging, we have great story, we have all that stuff. So is everybody else. So how are we going to stand out separately? So we didn't have a brand, we have a product, so we decided to use our delivery as our value proposition. So if you are a subscriber to Amora Coffee, we know what kind of coffee you like. Do you like light, medium, dark, bold, regular, decaf, whole bean, ground, flavored? Do you like to receive it twice a month, once a quarter, once every 6 months? It's a service you control. We don't have a brand, and we're moving into a commoditized business. Let's think about it for a second. Amora. It's aroma spelled backwards. That's it. It's aroma spelled backwards. It wasn't enough. We were stuck. We were stuck on the value proposition. What were we going to do? Well, if we knew exactly what you wanted, when you wanted it, and how you needed it, and we were willing to be high quality and roast in small batch and roast today, stage for shipping to hand-packed today, stage for shipping tomorrow, and ship by 2-day priority mail so that you have your fresh coffee in 3, 4, 5, 6 days instead of having your coffee in 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Or if you go to the grocery store and have your coffee that is 3, 4, 5, 6 months old, or if you work for a coffee company that I used to work for, it would be 15, 16, 17, 18 months old by the time it received your cup. Reached your cup. Now we have a value proposition. We have fresh. We have what we believe is the freshest cup of coffee we can bring to you. we'll only package it in 8-ounce bags, because if we put it in 12 or 16 or 18 and 24-ounce bags, you're going to open it up and you're not going to use it fast enough. So it'll go stale. And when we start you out, we're going to also give you a free canister, because you're going to have to store it in something in an airtight canister, because it needs to remain fresh. And you don't know who Amora is. Amora is aroma spelled backwards. So I'm going to give you a free sample so you can try it. If you try it, you'll continue, and we'll continue to service you. Our value proposition is freshness. It's premium. You will pay $30 a pound for Amora coffee because it's really, really fresh. And 500,000 people.
Thank you. Okay, so all of this marketing and great ideas that have just been expressed by the panel comes down to measurement. We're all in the direct response business, and measurement becomes key to success. So I'd like to ask each of the panelists how they share measurement, lifetime value, number of shipments necessary, profitability, retention, those kinds of things. So I'll just skip around a little bit here and ask each of the panel. Jim, I'll start with you. So how was success measured from the continuity or subscription side of the business?
Our first metric of success is consumer satisfaction measured by consumer complaints. So while return on investment and gross revenue, net present value, all of those things are very, very important to us, our number one metric is consumer satisfaction. We have a weekly staff meeting for Amora Coffee, and the number one agenda item is what is our Better Business Bureau rating. And if it's anything less than an A+, we end the meeting and we figure out how to get it back to an A+.
For us, basically, I think it's a chicken and the egg kind of concept, and I always preach that in the business. Without the audience, we don't have a group and a community to distribute the samples to, and vice versa. So without the samples, we also don't have the audience. From our perspective, the audience is extremely important. The health of that audience is extremely important. Let's face it, we're a free platform, so we don't collect payments in any kind. So we can't look at a revenue per user because they're not buying anything, right? But we obviously have a media business, so we understand what each user is generating for us from a dollar per user standpoint. But the key metric, our kind of North Star as a business when we look at growth, is active users. So how many people are actively logging into the site? How many people are actively opening emails? How many people are interacting with our brand on social within a given period of time? And so that North Star metric is what we look at on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis to look at success. Because as I mentioned, without the audience, we don't have anybody to send samples to. So it's really important to keep that healthy.
To go back to Jim's point, especially being so young, the first box that we sold 1,000 boxes. As I said, for spring we're selling 4,500 boxes, selling out each box. And we based everything on customer satisfaction by the research feedback. But eventually we've got to look at return on investment, and eventually you have to look at the P&L. So right now, we're moving forward with the rebranding, focusing on the procurement of the product, building partnerships, how do we get product in there at the right price? What price would a customer pay for the satisfaction of what they're getting in the box? And then the packaging, how important is the packaging for the customer, and how much can we afford, to leverage that in the investment that we're looking to get a return on. So as we move forward, because we've been in a digital atmosphere, we haven't poured a lot of acquisition investment into it. We are going to need to do that at this point, and to do that, we're going to have to look at all those leverage points in order to determine what we can provide for a customer at the best price point and still make a profit.
Micah, as you had those heart-to-heart conversations with your clients, how are they telling you that they're measuring their success of their subscription products?
It's all about authorization approval rates, and that's the ratio of authorization approvals to the total authorization attempts. It's an authorization is a request for payment, technically from a credit card. So it's how often, what percentage of the time we're actually able to get a merchant paid on a subscription. That's number one. Number two, it's a derivative of that, which is on the transactions or the attempts that are declined, that don't go through, how much are we able to improve the authorization approval rates on the subsequent attempts, right? So the first time fails, and how much better are we enabling our merchant to be at that second try or that third try? Just all about a question of how often that we are able to get our customers paid.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay. So the future, we kind of went back to the birth of Amazon from my overview earlier, and now here we are, 2017. So where is all of this heading? So it'd be interesting to hear each of the panels. Jim, I'll kick it off with you.
I think it's going to continue growing. I think there's going to be a significant amount of growth in the subscription marketing arena, and then I think there's going to be a significant amount of consolidation in the subscription marketing arena. So there's probably a lot of subscription continuity marketers in the room, and we all know that when we start off a subscription business, it takes an incredible amount of investment over the first 1, 2, or 3 years as you're growing your business before it's going to become cash flow positive. And so I think we see a lot of pop-up subscription companies starting out there, and they are definitely generating some fierce competition, but I also think they have raised money, and I think a lot of the subscription companies do not realize what a real payback scenario is, and building that database asset of your continuations beyond your first few shipments, which is what's really going to carry the business. So I think that's going to lead to a lot of necessary consolidation, as a lot of pop-ups are going to need to merge into other companies simply to survive.
I agree with Jim in terms of there's a lot of saturation. I think there are two things that are happening right now. The ease of technology, right? Anybody can build a site on something like Squarespace or Shopify or one of the kind of build your own platforms. So you're seeing a lot of new companies emerge, whether funded or whether bootstrapped. So you have that nature of a lot of competition in the market, and obviously I think the winners will win, and then the weaker companies will just dissolve. So I think that there will be continued competition in the subscription space. I also think that the word utility is something I like to bring up. If you look at all the major utilities that you need on a daily basis, for example, Dollar Shave Club is a subscription that I am signed up for. Basically, I don't buy razors anymore. I just like the utility or the ease of getting that product. So I think we're going to see more of these core verticals being disrupted. If you look at, which is a little bit unrelated to subscription, but if you look at a model like Warby Parker, you're tapping into a multi-billion-dollar vertical at a lower price point for glasses, which is something that everybody needs, similar to coffee where everybody drinks coffee, right? So I think you're going to see more and more subscription companies go to, including kind of a luxury or a nice food box, but also utility. What do you really need, and how often do you need that product? And I think, last but not least, you're just going to continue seeing more personalization, more technology. You're going to have less of a gray area with your subscription. You'll be able to personalize the frequency. You'll be able to personalize the type of product you want. So you'll be in full control. So I think that we're already seeing that, but we're going to continue seeing that as time goes on for the future.
Heather?
I agree with both panelists here that absolutely flexibility is something that we're looking at and we're considering, because that's what consumers want. That's their natural course of today. You know, I want to be able to control when I get it. I want to be able to control what I'm getting. But also to Jim's point, and this just goes back to the strength of a continuity or subscription business, you need to build that database of subscribers as well as invest in the acquisition. But it's that back end of database of subscribers that really are the meat and potatoes. You know, when I was hired at TMBI, my primary goal was to bring back select editions. It had not been promoted any way whatsoever for 2 years. It was still $1 million product because it was carrying on the backs of the subscribers who had been with that company and that business for so many years. That's not going to last forever. We did a model and said, listen, if you guys don't come back and invest in it again, it's going to go away. You have to put the money back in and feed the machine, and that back-end machine is going to sustain you. So I think, to your point, Jim, a lot of the companies don't see that foresight. So I think that's really where you need to focus your attention.
It's amazing how many subscription companies think you're going to make money in the first year.
Oh, you're lucky to break even year 3.
So Micah, One other term that I've seen out often with subscription is recurring revenue. And obviously CFOs love recurring revenue because they can predict the next year and where the numbers are heading. Where do you see the future from Vander's standpoint?
For recurring revenue, it's obviously a very hot term. One is there is a lot of focus on, as I mentioned before, on the transactions that are initially declined and how to deal with those in a smarter fashion. Granted, for example, we have proprietary logic that allows we look at a decline transaction, we look at about 90 different variables, run through an algorithm and determine the best 10-minute window to retry a transaction. So we take a very laser-targeted approach to each attempt, which is very different from a startup or even some very well-established players. If they use their own logic, it's often dumb, broad-based logic, like let's retry a transaction every 3 days for a maximum of 5 attempts, and they're not seeing great results from that. So definitely for us, the growth play is our algorithm that deals with that product we call our recovery solutions. In terms of growth in general in the space, and we're seeing international front, we're seeing smaller and smaller merchants that are looking abroad, are looking beyond the borders of the United States to capture revenue. And in particular with in the digital space, because it's just a lot easier to manage. You don't have to deal with shipping product internationally. Another space where we're seeing a lot of growth going forward is in the digital wallets. It's about making the transaction easier for the consumer. PayPal's both a digital wallet and a payment method. But you're starting to see the usage of PayPal in the subscription continuity space, as well as Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, and Android Pay. Again, all of this is an effort to make the transaction easier and faster for the consumer on whatever device that they use to purchase.
Okay, well, those are the questions we had. We're limited by time. I know we got started just a little bit late. So I'd like to wrap it up and make sure there are no questions. If there are, please raise your hand and ask away. Any questions from the audience? Okay.
Thanks, Ray. I just ask, we spent a lot of time on looking at offers, the 30-day free offers, all sorts of variations of offers. Are there things that are working or things that lend themselves more to online?
Well, I'll let the others answer that because we are a complete free model, so we're free all the time, so I can't necessarily tell you.
So then it's working.
Yes.
I think it comes down to brand. If you have a highly recognized brand, you may not have to provide free. If you don't have a highly recognized brand, I think you have to introduce yourself to your audience and allow them to give you a try. And so that can range from as many as 30 days free trial to as little as a 7-day free trial. So I really do believe it has to do with brand recognition.
Yeah, I agree. That and price point. I mean, the box is a higher price point. We really can't afford to overcome that hurdle of a free preview. We don't want returns. In the book continuity business, we just tested away from the free book offer. And we are now testing to a full price offer. So it has to do with the strength of the brand and what the customer is willing to purchase. If they value the brand and there's a good value proposition to it, they're going to be willing to pay that price. But you obviously have to test the waters. But we've moved away from the free offer.
Any other questions?
Milton, in order to save you the nuisance of taking back the boxes, do we keep it?
Yes.
Thank you.
They're free. I think we're also raffling off a few. There's these boxes and there's some larger prize boxes, special boxes. So I'm not sure exactly when that's happening or how that's happening, but
When we conclude, I'll let the staff take care of that. So Maurice and Lori. Just one last call. Yes.
I'm sorry, I have a question for Micah. You said that for fraud protection, that it's not recommended that you try the credit card again if it declines?
No, you should still reattempt it, despite the increase in fraud. But what the fraud screening allows you to do is know upfront before you're shipping the product if it's a good consumer or not.
So most of the business that we do, and we have to do a lot of business with Mike and Vantive, we will reject nearly 50% of everybody who tries to order. Nearly 50% of everybody who wants to order, we will reject based on business rules and merchant card processing rules, and they'll never be allowed to subscribe.
Okay. Well, hopefully you all came here today to learn a little bit about subscription, and I think today's panel did an exemplary job at educating everybody here, so I'd like to ask you all to give them a nice round of applause. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.